Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche of the MHRT Network. Over to my right is the one and the only, the Alex Givens. You can catch his stuff on Airhead Addict, and you can also catch his other content only and exclusively on Coach Defense's channel because he's too lazy to spin up his own with the Fast Fantasy Podcast. With the one and only Coach Defense, who just joined us here at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Coach Defense with his staple show every Tuesdays with him and Coach Kurt. Do recommend catching it. It really is a fantastic show and great time. They cover everything from football to NBA. And sadly, Coach is also a Lakers fan, but we'll forgive him for that.
No need to forgive.
Damn.
I don't mind at all if you hate the fact that I'm a Lakers fan. Don't mind at all. It's okay. I know. Haters can hate us.
Tanking is in full effect.
It is. Yeah. Definitely tackling taking on three.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are who are fans of the show, we're here last week. You'll know that Captain was very forthcoming and indirectly stated to all of us that he was going to be in the Vegas this week. And we have Captain down here below who has joined us this evening to make sure he made
Captain on the go.
By the way,
and I am not. And thank you. I do. You know, people. I just think it makes you look very dapper and refined.
Love that.
I think the hat says not allowed within 100 yards of Chuck E. Cheese, but that's me.
Do not follow this man to a panel van.
You guys want some candy? I got it. Got it in the bag.
Here,
Candies.
here, come here, little girl. There you go. And like I said, so again, folks, apologies. I don't even know what internet I'm on. So if I pop out, it's not because I don't want to be here. I am trying. I'm here. So because I have much respect for the gentleman that I am with, and I would not want to miss. In fact, I was like, wait a second, what time is it? Because I'm not used to being on, West Coast up. Okay, there you go. So I was like, oh shoot, it's 4:30 by 7:30. So it's like it's really friggin' early, So we're doing the show. But again, lots of love for my shipmates here, and I noticed.
Dial up in Vegas.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, what's that dial-up sound?
No more America Online minutes.
Hey, like I said, I'm out, dude. I am at a house. Okay, we are doing a house looking. So I want to hear shit about America Online. This is free wave, Wi-Fi in the air. Okay, that's the best I can do.
Yep, no worries. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't start off. We'll start off with Alex because, while the Chargers and Broncos game, there were certainly several storylines that unfolded in that game. I think that the reason why we're all here, Alex, is we have quite the crowd that all wants to hear what you have to say about the last play and the reaction to said play. From the whiny child of a quarterback that you currently have playing for you. And I'll leave it at that, and you take it from there.
Oh, no, leave it at that. Don't worry, I'll harp on it. Don't worry, I'm going to get to it.
You want to get it out now, or you want to chime in?
He's trying to keep his left lung down first, so let's have you go first, and then we'll have Captain go second.
Well, I know that I had talked to Coach about it. Obviously, I'd say a little less of a stoic reaction that you usually get out of Mahomes. I specifically said to Coach, I think the freak out to some degree at the end of the game was more geared towards his receivers and just the compounding week by week frustration of kind of regression in some things that he's been able to do in the past. And, you know, the refs in that moment just happened to kind of be the scapegoat outlet there to just kind of let it all out. I mean, because he's walked back, you know, since then and has gone back to answering things in the professional manner he does. And I mean, it's not like it was any, I think more when he added more to it after the fact, you know, when cooler heads kind of prevailed, he went back to the same comment he made after the MVS no call, where he said, you know, I just don't think that refs should be getting involved in the late game situations. You know, when they asked him about the PI last week that wasn't called, and he said, you know, I'm more in that situation, like, let him play. And I think that's where he was more frustrated with the refs in that regard. And that, you know, in that moment, it was something as tacky as receivers' foot's on the line, you know, to negate what was a pretty sweet play. So I understand why he was frustrated. Is that the way you should respond? No, but like, I also get just the boil over of all of it. But I mean, and the fact that the way he responded lets people like, you know, Biggie Bronco here say he's just always been a whiny bitch or whatever. But, you know, that could just be your opinion. At the end of the day, he is a 2-time Super Bowl winning QB. And I think it just, you know, wasn't the best of days for him. And that was just kind of the boil over moment. I mean, crappy way to win the game or lose the game or in the game, I should say. Because, I mean, even Kelsey said he's more upset with how he played after the fact, because even with that call being negated, it was still 2nd 15 with 40 seconds left, and they had 2 timeouts. Was it like the dagger moment to just kill any sort of momentum? Sure. But, you know, listening to Kelsey, you know, on his pod, you know, he said, I'm more pissed off with how we played after that, because in the past we've been able to find ways to win games, and we're not doing that right now. And that's, I mean, that's the bigger issue. Do I think Mahomes reacted a little bit childish? Sure. But I mean, it's not the first time an athlete's responded like that in a high pressure situation, and it's certainly not going to be the last. But I wouldn't say he was, you know, crying over the call, or I think it was just a boil over of frustration, and the fact that, like we kind of talked about last week, you know, the refs are just so inconsistent. Like, you know, Green Bay game last week, blatant PI, nothing. Okay, that's fine. Let's let it play. This week, you know, he was like half an inch on the line. I'm going to call that, even though he did it all game and we never called it. Dan Orlovsky took way too much of his time to go through and show us that. But I mean, that is there. And is it a ticky-tack, you know, penalty to call? Sure, but it is one. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not in the – I'd say I'm in the majority, I suppose, of Chiefs fans that, you know, I'm not blaming the refs on the loss. I mean, the loss is very clear, like, from the offensive issues they have, and then just the fact that they don't seem to have the it factor that they've had in years past of finding a way to win the close game. And that's just kind of what it boils down to.
Can I jump real quick? But before, Alex, love you, brother. But I mean, for you to say that you didn't think that he was crying about the call, come on, man. That is second grade bitching at something, because not only did he throw a temper tantrum on the sideline, whether it was directed at Tony or the officials or who whatever, when you have to have people that are like holding you back from doing something stupid, is crying about something, and then for him to call in the press conference with saying it, and I don't know the exact words, but if you dissect all those words, and then when he comes down and hugs Allen at the end of the game and just oh man, Fred, ticky tack, blah blah blah. That's crying about the call, my friend. I'm sorry. There's no two ways around it. And God, I'm not. This is the next words out of my mouth are going to be horrible. When myself and Biggie Bronco actually have the same point, he didn't bitch about the call last year in the Super Bowl, which was less ticky tack or more ticky-tack than that one was, and it negated a play that ended up, costing the Eagles and assisted the Chiefs. So I just got to take issue with that, Alex, and I'll go back to not trying to cough up my lung, but I mean, again, and no, all kidding aside, I think that it's because Patrick Mahomes, and this is personal now, I personally think he's a punk. I think that Kelsey is a punk. They have all the ability in the world, but because they've been kowtowed for all of these years with the officials kowtowing on the abilities that they show with the Andy Reid offense and with Eric Bieniemy and all the things that have been clicking for them, it wasn't as apparent. So when you get used to the calls, a la Tom Brady being the bitch ass princess that he is, when you're getting used to that, you have that little tear. That's why Mahomes seems like every play he looks at the official and is like, hey, where's the flag? Where's the flag? Where's the flag? And to me, that's a punk. And I'm sorry about that. That I just had to get that out before I lost reception. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to unpack there. I mean, I don't disagree that it was about the call. I mean, in the moment, I guess I didn't properly put a bow on it at the end of that. I think where the helmet tossing and some of that stuff came out is more geared towards just the overall frustration with his receivers, but he's not the type of guy that's going to sit there and say, like, if my guys could catch the ball, we would get something done. So it's more channeled to the refs. I mean, if he was such a punk that he was, and, that was at the normal routine character of how he reacts. I mean, for the countless times you guys say the refs are, I mean, even this year, like it would be a compounding narrative every week about some call and him complaining. So, I mean, it was a singular moment in how he has, for the most part, been a stoic example of how to play quarterback in the NFL and be the face of a team. I mean, it was an outlier reaction. So I don't think it was like his true colors of I'm a crybaby because I didn't get this call. Like, he's lost games before and hasn't reacted like that. I mean, they've lost to the Bills and Arrowhead before in the regular season, and he didn't leave a game reacting like that. And in almost every game, I think any team could pick a call that was, questionable or should have gone their way. And I mean, that goes to the bigger problem that we were talking about of just the uniformity of how things are called or how crews operate. It just seems, and Coach and I have talked about this, it just seems that the refs as a whole have been a bigger issue this year than they have in the last 5 to 10. I mean, yes. Hell, it's like 70% of the games have some questionable call or something that didn't occur. So, I mean, that's, I think, the bigger issue. But, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that was the true nature of Mahomes, or he's like his brother, or he's a punk-ass bitch, or whatever you want to call him. I mean, well, the one thing you did compare him to was Tom Brady, and the two things that those guys have in common is they win. So you got to find a way to diminish the winner. Let's just attack the character.
Right.
That's all we got.
And allow me to step in here for a second to add some clarity to the conversation. Now, let's take Mahomes out of the conversation. That the timing of the call I think it had him the most upset. I think that had anybody upset that would be in that position. Had this happened to Justin Herbert, Aiden O'Connell, Russell Wilson, the timing of the situation when the game was on the line, they scored a touchdown as a result of the play they called, was I think is the most egregious part of the whole conversation. Because if you go back and listen to all the data that comes out from the game, they said that he was offsides multiple times throughout the game. It's just the timing of it. And I feel like anybody in Mahomes' situation or the Chiefs situation, as a fan, you would have an issue with the timing of the call. So I think that's the most biggest thing that we're kind of glossing over because, again, he's one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league. You can look at this from the Michael Jordan comparison to LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. Anybody that's been really, really good at a skill, Tom Brady, to use your reference, Alex, people have used those moments that they have less than stellar, buttoned up shirt and tie, suit and tie moments to pile on him to say that he's this or he's that. And again, to your point, Alex, attack his character. Again, if this was anybody else's quarterback in this situation, we all would have an issue with this, with the conversation of why they called it then. Exactly. We're not going to argue the aspect of it. He wasn't offside. So we clearly saw that. But the timing and the I guess you can say the positioning of the time they wanted to call it. When, if you zoom in on the play, we saw the play on Twitter. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, he literally threw his hand up to the ref, looking at the ref, asking, was he good? Ref blew him off, and he pulled the flag out, threw it on him anyway. Again, that goes to the inconsistencies of what the referees have been doing and not doing this year. Because I think Jalen Waddle had the same dilemma in the Monday night game, and nobody called it. So if it was Justin Herbert in the situation and Keenan Allen was offsides, I would have an issue with the fact that they have a timing of it, and not the fact that it wasn't right or wrong, because we can belabor and beat it down who was right or wrong and stand on that if you want. But the timing of it felt like it's the issue, and I think we're not addressing that part of it.
So
I did not hear any of the, again, did not see any, or hear, I should say hear any of the analysis that went out about that. If he was offsides the entire game, and they waited until that particular moment to call it, that is AFU. And I don't need, y'all know what that stands for. I didn't hear any of that analysis. I only saw the play after the fact and say, man, that's a hell of a way to lose. Great play. But if the guy's offside, he's offsides, whether it's by an inch or mile. There's no such thing as whether you're in that respect, it's either a penalty or no penalty. And and like I said, they did call it. Now, again, I did not hear anything about him being offsides the entire game. Then the officials need to get their stuff together and make it consistent. And that's true, Coach. It has not been consistent. It's been consistently inconsistent and screwing over people and particular players and teams. Thank you.
I do want to add, though, that I don't think that call screwed the Chiefs over. The Chiefs lost that game on their own. I think my first words to Coach after it was, it's fitting that it wasn't a wide receiver dropping a pass, but lining up, not off time. I said, that's just poetic justice. And just to carry on top of you think that we can only lose you a game by not catching it? Nah, check this out. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Hold my beer.
That's the thing that sucks, though, about the the overarching, picture of non-uniformity of the calls. It's here I am, the Chiefs fan that wants to talk about what they did wrong and what needs to improve to get to where the ultimate end goal is. But we're left, of this, just talking about this issue, which was the last 40 seconds of what was still a pretty good game against two NFL caliber teams. But because of the way it ended, it's people think that because I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm upset about the refs and think that's why they lost. And then, the other side thinks this is finally the Chiefs not getting their way all the time. And then we're stuck, just talking about that.
So my take on this is a little different slightly than the rest of you. I mean, trust me, we had my rant last show, which, was on this topic squarely, over this target
They almost foreshadowed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right. And
we have the script.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? And so I have a slightly different take on this. I can appreciate a competitor like Mahomes, who is at this stage used to winning, as you said earlier in the conversation, getting upset at something that, you know, would have led them potentially to victory in that moment. So I can at least appreciate that. That doesn't mean I agree with it. It means I can at least empathize in that particular scenario where someone could actually have a negative response to that. Now, what I disagree with from a professionalism perspective is the ref did nothing wrong in a general sense. Did the ref make a valid call? Yes. Sorry, not sorry, right? It's a fact. Yeah. However, I do agree with you the fact that, you know, the refs need to set a tone in a game. And
if you call offsides with him in the first play of the game, he does not get offsides the rest of the game.
Correct. And so the whole point is you call it to kind of set the tone for the entirety of the game. And if you don't call it, and as long as if he was like a full foot over the line, I'm sorry, I don't really give a crap what these comments are. The dude's gonna get called for that every time. You're talking like,
it was close. Literally in the Monday night Dolphins game, we saw Jalen Waddle in the same lineup,
same position,
further, and there was nothing.
Yeah. So, now where I have a problem, and I have a pretty big problem, and this is kind of where this is 100% on Mahomes.
That's what she said.
You can get angry. Well, we'll see what his wife says about it later. But this is where I have an issue. The way he interacted with Josh Allen. I'm sorry. That is like, I can appreciate all the other things, and I can almost give him a pass for those other things. Where I draw the line is how you conduct yourself with other, what we'll call it, colleagues, if you will, or at least equals or similarly equal players in the NFL. You don't walk up to the other player and be like, blah, 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 what about that call? Yeah, yada, yada. No. The refs made a call. They did their job. Your focus and direction in that moment should be to your wide receiver who can't use his bloody eyes, look down at where the things are, and or ask the ref directly if he was okay.
He did.
No, he didn't. He looked over. He didn't ask.
That's the same thing. That is what it is. Literally, that's what you tell receivers. You get in line, you look at the ref, they always go, or like move back, or yes, thumbs up. That's it.
He pointed at the ref on that play. He came to the line, he pointed at the ref. Ref didn't even acknowledge him, and he felt like since he didn't acknowledge him at all, he was good, and he snapped the ball.
Fair enough.
I would argue though that the Josh Allen video that is the viral part of it is out of context, because it is literally just that clip right there. Like, he did not go up to it. They talked before he just started saying that. So, I'm sure, emotions are boiling, but he still, out of respect, went out there and told him good game. They had that exchange. It wasn't like Josh left that disrespected or felt that, it was slighted. Like, they're just competitors. So, that like tempers flare in competition, and that's going to happen. But I do think that, that video was cut up because it's like 7 seconds. It starts right at him saying like effing worst call ever. Like, find it really hard to believe.
Alex, just to interject, you're not going to get from me accepting a viral clip as being the only thing that took place. I know full well that there was a conversation that took place there that included good game, congratulations, and some other things. Where I draw the line is when you start going from appropriate sportsmanship and frankly, and the norms of the game, professionalism, dare I say, traditional stoic Mahomes when he comes out after a loss or a win. After a win, he sometimes has a bit of a, we'll just say a cockiness to him, which I think is inappropriate sometimes too. But fair enough. He earned that by playing that way on the field. But on the flip side, if you're going to say that I earn the cockiness of after I win the game, then guess what? You also earn all of the criticism and all the negativity that you get when you act like a little whiny. There's children watching the show, so I'll watch my language. Like, so I'm sorry, that's kind of where I draw the line, is that if you're gonna own the fact that you can act a certain way when you win and you can kind of behave a certain way because you put that on the field, awesome, fantastic. I'm right with you because I agree. Flip side of that, you act that way, you brought on the heat yourself, and therefore you deserve to get smacked over the head with a frying pan.
Well, this is not new because I know a guy by the name of Tom Brady that when he lost certain games, he didn't even shake hands with the other quarterback.
And guess what, Coach? I had equally the same amount of issue with that level of childish behavior.
Yeah,
that's weak. That's weak.
Somebody tell Cap he's on mute because he's talking.
Cap, you're on mute.
Cap, you're muted.
You're
muted.
You sound like you're making a great point. I want to hear you. I can't hear you.
I can't. We can't hear you.
He's using this.
You're using this, which means it's normally a good thing.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Is
this better?
There we go. We
go. I think the main thing that we're missing, and it was in the comments that you guys said, is that the consistency of the officials, and this is the bottom effing line. Why is it that the last two Super Bowls, the officials were basically that had their hands in their pockets and there wasn't laundry on the field? But you go back to the Rams Super Bowl against the Bengals, pretty much the officials let them all play. And then the last 2 to 3 minutes is when the laundry came out. And then last year, about the same way, I'm not saying that they didn't throw a few, but it was basically let them play. And then at the last 3 minutes last year, the same frigging thing happened. And that's why I'm saying that consistency sucks. And it's blatant that people will notice. And again, I apologize for, the non-Wi-Fi that I'm here, but doing the best I can, guys.
Hey, audio is great. Yeah, audio. You must be on that 5, 6G. You got to be by Area 51 or something.
He must be. He has an alien holding the antenna. Alien holding the antenna right behind him.
Got that, Wakanda tech.
Right.
At least I'm friggin' here. I don't want to hear anything about me not being here.
No, this is true.
Fedora and all.
Yeah, I mean, final
that's
cap on it. I mean, I'm not trying to defend, I guess, Mahomes' actions because I do agree that it was childish and outlandish and unnecessary. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that, I think that is an outlier reaction. And when compared to other situations, I mean, arguably could have responded the same way to end the Green Bay game, and he didn't. I mean, blatant PI that doesn't get called. He wasn't throwing his helmet and bitching about not getting that call. So that's just all. I wanted to point out that for the most part, he is a very carries himself very well and is professional. And I think that was just kind of the perfect boil over moment of all the just built up, offensive issues, dealing with having to talk about your receivers sucking every week, like your receivers getting asked why they can't catch balls and acting like they don't know what the problem is. And then, that's just the perfect way to end the game after a, play of the year type of thing that goes down. I mean, I was losing my mind when he pitched it. I was like, what's happening? And then, just ripped out from you. But, in hindsight, like it all encompassing view. I mean, that is, I don't think a true light on Mahomes' character. I think this has just been the perfect storm of so much bad that has happened, despite the fact that they're, still in the playoff hunt and control their own destiny. It's just not been, something's been off with how they have gone about this season compared to, the last few. And, it's just obviously bigger issues at play than not getting the call. But, competitors sometimes, just lose their crap. Like, I think every person that's been in a competitive setting can reflect on one time in their life when they lost control of their emotions due to the situation. So, that's just human.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can say that we have been less than hinged when certain things have happened, and just in traffic. Not a high stakes football game. Like, people have lost their shit in traffic. So so I know that you have the high stakes game, like a really crucial football game that you work your arse off to play in is going to be, bring out the emotions. So again, I definitely I'll give him grace in that moment. Give him grace in that moment that he had a bad moment, but it's not a defining moment, in my opinion.
And Sean was getting to where I was going.
I agree. It shouldn't be a defining moment, and I hope that enough people here have clear enough heads to not use that as a defining moment for Mahomes, because I don't believe that's appropriate. We have all had moments of weakness where we have not lived up to our potential and done the right thing. I'm sorry, it's a fact. But where I have an issue, truly an issue, is not only in the exchange between him and Allen. I also have a bit of an issue, when I say a bit, I mean more than just a bit, with his candor as well as reads after the game. I think that there's no room for that either. Again, just being completely blunt and honest as well. And above and beyond that, I disagree, Alex, actually, with your comment. I believe that he should have thrown shade to his wide receivers and should be starting to do something like that at some point. Both fans and other teammates need to know that there's accountability that takes place. And if I assume that I'm making certain assumptions here, obviously, that there's already been internal discussions to say, stop messing up, catch the damn ball, run the proper route. Like, we have to assume that this has already taken place. So if the normal stuff has already taken place and you still have some clown that doesn't know where his feet are, let's put it this way. You're about to run a play that is pretty special. Would it really be a bad thing if you were, say, 2 inches back from the line rather than an inch or on the line?
I will say that thing was totally unscripted. Kelsey just decided to do that. So it's not like Tony knew that the ball was coming his way. He probably expected he wasn't getting it at all. But yeah,
good wherewithal to be aware that the ball was coming, because he could have easily dropped it and it really been a disaster. But go ahead, though.
No, it's just it does fall to the wide receivers, but just at the end of the day, Mahomes, and similar to Brady or Peyton Manning, when there's been issues, they've been the one to at least publicly say, I got to be better, or I got to find a way to get them in better spots. They're not going to sit there and be like, well, I would be fine where, if MVS could just catch a ball, like we would have like, he's just not going to say that. And maybe that does happen behind closed doors, but, a leader, everyone in sports growing up always said, a leader is someone that can set the example, lead by example and get others to fall in line with you. He and to his credit, that he is very much a leader in that regard, because he's never going to go out there after a press conference and be like, yeah, that's all on Marquez. If he just caught that, we would have won. So got to do better because we're paying you $30 million. Like, no, that's for the fans and Twitter to say,
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it definitely falls on the receivers. And that's been a compounding problem. And like Sean Kelly said earlier that I highlighted, that is the reason they lost, is that, they got, again, in a 14-point deficit, which they can't afford to do like they have in the past. I know I said before the game, they have to win the turnover battle. literally first drive resulted in an interception. So right from the start of it, I said, if they have one turnover, they're probably going to lose because, Josh Allen played a hell of a game, like way more protected with the football than he has been. I mean, he still turned the ball over. The Chiefs defense still played relatively well. I mean, shut Stephon Diggs down. But, at the end of the day, like their first 4 drives got no points. It was an interception, a late down sack, and then 2 3-and-outs due to wide receiver miscues. One was a route issue, and the other one, ironically, was a false start. But I mean, that is the problem. Like it's not anywhere else but with the wide receivers and just the chemistry that they have as a whole with Mahomes and him. Because even the unorthodox scrambling around, finding open guys plays aren't there, because it seems that outside of Rashee Rice, who Mahomes specifically wanted to draft after he threw routes with him and knew that he's that type of guy like a Kelsey that can find a soft spot in coverage, the other guys just effing run what's on the paper and just, I'm like, oh, if it hits me, then I'll catch it, but I'm not going to run around. Like, they don't seem to have the same flow. And that's creating a lot of issues as we get closer into playoffs, and they were in a tougher stretch of their schedule. But glass half full, like the rest of their games are pretty favorable matchups outside of the Raiders.
Bengals.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of like Browning magic. I mean, we saw Dobbs explode as of late. I just feel like with backups, there's always a reason they're a backup and a career backup, and you're going to find it out sooner rather than later.
See, somebody said that before. I've heard that saying before.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the issue is with the wide receivers. It's always been there. I mean, it's the first time in Mahomes' career that he's had a top 10 defense, like a legit defense. And ironic that he has a bunch of nobody, like just no one that he can put up the same production with. And it's just crazy how, while still, everywhere, still accomplishing all the goals that are in sight of all the goals they probably set to start the year, it tastes different.
Yeah. So I think by and large, it was a fairly good game overall. Obviously, the call kind of defined the game, whether or not we like it or not. And I think we can all agree that you don't want a bad call or a good call or even a fair call and a reaction to define a game. But nonetheless, I think it did, sadly. And I'd like to see, a bounce back, because I don't want that to be what we all remember the season by. Although I do think that this season will be defined by many as the year that the refs just took like 10 steps backwards overall.
Maybe they're about to make a huge push for a bigger union pay or something, and they're just colluding here. Let's just make this season so trash.
Yeah. So I think we should kind of keep the show moving here, and we'll move on to the divisional matchup between the Chargers and the Broncos, because obviously that was a bit of a defining moment, combined with the Chiefs' loss there, in terms of making our division rather interesting all of a sudden. And so, Coach, I want to kind of throw over to you, get your take on things. Obviously, Herbert was that's a big deal for your team, and I hope he gets well and gets back to normal quickly. Get your thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be I guess you can say a brand new take that I'm going to give. I've been saying, subliminally, I've been saying for a while that O-line missing Corey Linsley was an issue, and I give shouts out to the D coordinator, man, Vance Joseph. I give him a shout out to him and understanding what the systemic problem was with the O-line without Corey Linsley and Will Clapp being his replacement. They don't pick up pressure well. And it's been that way, and I didn't really want to glowingly say that because I was hoping for the best. It's kind of like if you put something out in the atmosphere, it happens to you. So I didn't want to say it directly, but I've known for quite some time that when Corey Linsley's out of the ball game, the protection is awful. It is people don't glowingly blitz or traditionally and wholeheartedly take advantage of it. So that was the biggest and most glaring issue, and hence why Justin Herbert's out for the year. It just was a complete and utter travesty of them just missing blitz after blitz, picking up pressure after pressure, not picking up pressure after pressure.
Right.
That really ultimately caused the offense to be very stagnant last week against a very maligned Patriots team, to say the least. So it's one of those things that it's a problem, and it only gets worse as the season goes on when people get more and more film on you. And again, they literally drilled in on that idea and then did not let it go. They blitzed Herbert all night. Zone blitz, man blitz, it didn't matter. They schemed up well, because a couple of times it was just flat out free rushes at the quarterback with nobody even thinking about stepping to the man to pick him up and pressure. They came from the inside, they came from the outside. It was just a rough watch. And I'm just sitting on my couch shaking my head like it's not going. It's a bad look. I was just hoping for the simple fact that he would get out the game healthy, and he didn't. When he went down that hand and he went immediately to the locker room, I knew what it was. I said he's likely done, and if he's not done in a sense where he can play, I would shut him down. I would shut him down. Yeah, I would shut him down. Because there's no point, because what's going on, it wasn't going to get any better. You throw him back out there, he could get hurt even further. So again, at this point, you just need to hedge your bet and just roll with your backups and just ride it out, because again, you don't want to mortgage your future off something that's not going to take you anywhere anyway. You weren't in a position to win that game. When in a position to win the Broncos game, and that likely was going to be the end of your percentage to even think about making the playoffs. So what are you actually playing for here? Again, outside
and
of
look at Burrow too, right? Like they rushed him back right after they signed him, and then compounded into a longer injury. So exactly. So, and again, they have the same style issue. They don't pick up pressure well. If you look at the difference in picking up pressure and people that do and don't, they got a solid center. People have, I guess, more than one analyst that I've listened to over the past month or so have given Corey Linsley the kudos that he's probably the best at navigating and getting people in the right position to pick up pressures. Creed Humphreys is another one. There's the reason they signed him.
Exactly. Creed Humphreys is another one. You look at a solid quarterback, an elite quarterback in this league, a game-changing quarterback, he has an elite center. Full stop.
He doesn't have to worry about protection.
Exactly. So I can just call plays, make reads, and get the ball out. I don't have to worry about picking up pressures and making.
I don't got to call hots or any of that.
Exactly. It's more pressure on the quarterback. Like I said, Creed Humphreys is a catalyst for Patrick Mahomes. Tyler Linderbaum is a catalyst for Lamar Jackson. Like I said, Corey Linsley was a catalyst for Hurts. Kelsey for Hurts, exactly. It goes on and on. So if you don't have that and you have systemic problems picking up pressure, and you get your quarterback sacked a lot. Look at Washington. Sam Howell's the most sacked quarterback in the league. They don't have a good center. It all runs in together, and that's been a problem.
I'll say too, Coach. I know we've talked about like Zion Johnson getting worse. Yes. And I think that is a product of Lindsey not being out there and being able to make adjustments and say, hey, this guy's coming. And I mean, you've almost seen a regression with the two up and coming younger O linemen, and I think that stems from the fact
whole O line is young. The whole O line is young. Slater's young. Pipkins is young. Zion and Jamar are rookies and second-year players. Second and third-year players. So they all are young outside of Lindsey. Lindsey was the only veteran. And again, Will Clapp is not Corey Linsley. So that's where your fall-off happens, is why he paid him the big bucks to come to LA, because you needed that. You had a brand new franchise quarterback coming in, and what you're going to do as far as protecting them is first to start from the inside out. Get your captain on the O-line situated, get that done first, then you build around that. Draft the left tackle, of course, that's you absolutely positively need to protect his blind side, and you go from there. And they've done that, but it's just unfortunate circumstance that Corey Linsley had a heart issue. So it's not anything you can control. So that part is really what drove the idea that he's been under fire since Corey Linsley went out. So again, a problem that's only gotten worse. And then on top of the fact that you can't take pressure off the quarterback and have the pass glowingly because you can't run the ball. That's another issue. And that's been an issue I've been harping on this whole entire 2 years we were doing this pod, that we have an issue running the football. Because again, if you can't even make the defense even think about it, they just know at certain stretches that you're just going to give it up and you're not going to go back to it, then guess what? Makes my life easy. I can scheme up and I can pressure you and I can do all these kind of exotic things, and you're going to have to deal with it. And that makes the game much more difficult for Justin Herbert to navigate. So again, hence why another reason why he's on the shelf for the year. So this should be a complete and utter sign that things need to change, and from top to bottom. So going into the season, but as far as the game is concerned, I mean, wasn't much to talk about outside of just the normal issues: the line protections, the lack of run game, Austin Eckler's lack of ability to be utilized in the pass game here lately, which I don't understand that either. And then the simple fact that no receiver outside of Keenan Allen, who's being double and triple team every single play, can't get open. From the tight ends position to the other wide receivers, they just aren't being effective. So that's the biggest and most glaring problem that we have, and hence why we're struggling, and hence why we lost to the Broncos. Again, the Broncos played a hell of a game. Not taking away from nothing from that, but no matter who we face at this point, it's always the same song, different game.
So put Big E Broncos comment just on the shelf for a moment, because he literally brought up a variation of what my second point's going to be here on the game, Coach. First and foremost, when you have a great and or elite center, what the quarterback can do at that point, and because the center has such control and command over the linemen, is you can start calling faux adjustments on the offensive line as the quarterback alongside and with that veteran offensive center. So you saw that a lot with Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're going to kind of go back a little bit in the Colts. You also saw that a little bit with Peyton Manning when he was with the Broncos. It was just slightly less successful because, again, to your point, you need that top dog, that absolute, pinnacle within the center position, Creed Humphrey, etc. You need guys like that. And then you can really start doing some funky things in terms of faux calls, faux adjustments, and then the defense starts to shift, and the linemen are like, "We got you."
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one. I'm going to quickly bring up this one here. This is what my big question was after the game, Coach. I didn't want to bring this up until I saw our defense versus your offense, seeing what happened, comparing all the things. I have to ask it now, though. Kind of a two-parter. One, what has gone wrong with your offense, and why has Kellen Moore not made adjustments to try to make it better? And two, as like a secondary part to that, do you think that the poor kind of adjustments on Kellen Moore and his inability to kind of adapt to the offense will ultimately impact his ability to perhaps land a head coaching job, similar to what we've kind of been discussing with Staley, which is the offense hasn't adapted well and looked great. It's not looked horrible, but not looked great, and you haven't kind of won when you needed it. But when you look at Staley, he's a defensive dude, and your defense has struggled as well at through a large part of the season. So do you think that teams are going to start projecting kind of Staley vibes onto Moore, and perhaps he won't get those opportunities as well? Just kind of unpacking both of those.
Well, started from the last part and work back. I do believe that the Staley stench could get on Kellen Moore. I think the Spanish could have did him a solid by letting Staley go and letting him be the interim, so you kind of see more so with him being void of being under Staley what he could honestly truly do as a head coach in that perspective. But I do believe from the offensive perspective as a whole, it's a lot of moving parts here that I guess you can say equate to the idea of the offense regressing, right? Because we all had, our biggest and most big and glowing gripes about Lombardi, right? When he was offensive coordinator. So we thought that Kellen Moore, which to a degree early on was a definite upgrade to when he came in, and he definitely showed the ability to have some nuances with the run game in the preseason, in the first game of the season. He had different ways to get people open from a perspective of utilizing the weapons he had. I think that the domino effects of losing Mike Williams, losing Josh Palmer, losing Joe Everett for stretches, like you literally don't have guys that can win. I think that's the biggest problem that people aren't focusing on, is the fact that no matter what play I call, If a defensive line in man coverage and you only got one guy that can win in man coverage and they're bracketing him, somebody else has to win. And that's what you drafted a guy like Quentin Johnson to do, and he hasn't done it. So again, no matter what play I call, so Jack Kitter's point, playing Madden or not, you got to be able to win and be able to get open. If you can't get open, in any stretch, real football or Madden, the ball is not going to either come to you or it's going to be intercepted. So that part is one of the issues that it looks like an indictment on Kellen Moore, but it's more of a personnel issue. On top of the fact that you're limited with the type of play calls you can draw up, because quite frankly and honestly, the personnel up front from the O-line perspective just can't run block. Like, I've never seen the last 2 years this line been together that they don't get pushes on short yardage downs. Like, we run the ball consistently going on 4th and 4th down, because as you saw in the Broncos game, how many times we went 4th to 4th down. We've done it all year when it's been short yardage, and we've tried to run the ball and we get no push up front. Nobody gets moved. Like, it's a complete and utter reversal of what the Eagles do. You see Eagles moving bodies in the brotherly shove. They don't move any bodies. They get pushed back in certain regards. So that tells you that stylistically, this line is not built to run block. They're more so built to pass block. And in that regard, only person that's really doing that well right now is Rashawn Slater. Trey Pipkins is slid back in his regression and in the way he's been giving up sacks. Zion Johnson and Jamar Saleh are struggling, and we already know Will Clapp is. So that particular aspect of it all plays into the idea that I'm kind of pigeonholed as an OC because I only can do certain things and call certain things, because I know if I do, kind of put myself behind the chains by calling run plays or traditional plays I think that will work early downs, it's going to put me behind the chains, because I know that's not going to get anywhere. If I know I'm going to get 1 yard or negative gain when I call a run play on first down, I'm at 2nd and 10. Will you likely be at like 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 2? So you can kind of, stay ahead of the chain. So, when you look at it from a perspective of his play calling style and the amount of things that can and can't do on offense, it all works together. I still believe that, because even though we are struggling on offense, we're still one of the better red zone offenses from a scoring perspective that have been in the league this year. And that's a complete utter transfer from the Dallas regime last year, because they were number 1 last year in red zone touchdowns, and now we're like 2 or 3. So, it's give and take. So I think that it's a holistic problem, a systemic problem from personnel to coaching. It's not just one person's fault, and it doesn't lay the feet at just one person.
Right, but so we started off the season. I'm going to say that tape hasn't aged particularly well, but we said it. Even I said it, so I'll have to own the mistake there as well. I truly believed, and so did you, Coach, that your offensive line was certainly one of the strengths of your team. And I mean, we both, like I said, it's on tape. Like, we both kind of were in lockstep and agreement there.
Right, but you see, to go back to that original point, the missing of Corey Linsley changed all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But this is kind of where I'm going at with this, is that, sure, that puts the guys maybe in the right spots in certain moments to pick up the right people, but you still would expect coaches to perhaps progressively step up the guys to coach them up as the year goes on, to perhaps overcome the loss of Linsley, for example, would be kind of one piece. And then the other piece where I was kind of getting at, and you didn't directly cover it off in your Kellen Moore bit there, but where are his adjustments? So as an example, and I'm going to give you a Broncos example because that's what I know, is when the Broncos were struggling in pass protection in 2 years ago, we had Mike Munchak step in, who was he's got an offensive mindset. He's also an offensive line coach. He brought in flanking tight ends. That was back when we had Saubert and a few other dudes that were in the tight end room that were kind of bigger blocking guys. And that definitely worked. We definitely saw an improvement with protection. So we had the tight ends permanently in there as flanking blockers to kind of assist our tackles in those run block and pass block plays, which then allowed the interior of the offensive line to kind of start key in, double team interior linemen because they were not doing well. And we saw some improvements there. We're not seeing, at least from what I saw in that game, we are not seeing Kellen Moore attempt things like that to assist his struggling line. And that is kind of where I was going with, where are your adjustments? Why are you not doing certain things? Where are your boots to the outside while trying to kind of draw guys one way versus the other? where are these adaptive plays to put your guys and your team in better positions? Even if it's not typical, you at least adapt so that you can try to win games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair criticism, and I kind of lay that more so at the feet of the offensive line coach. And that particular space, I think that, you know, somebody, you know, be it Brandon Staley, Kellen Moore, somebody needs to go to them and say, hey, we got to be better at protection, and they did not do that. And if it's to the point, you know, more aggressive people, I guess you can say, you know, look at it from a perspective that if you're not getting a job done in season, like if you're just not working, like we just have a clear, you know, rift in styles or coaching styles or ability to get the best out of your players, people, you know, kind of reshuffle things. Like, you know, you might let go of a guy, bring in a guy who, you know, but again, that's one of the things the Chargers never are known for. Let me put it that way. They just ride it out, and they make it's kind of like it's like a basketball game in-game adjustments. Like you're in a playoff game, you know, you see a clear problem that you should address in game. Some coaches make the adjustments on the fly in game. Some coaches wait till the next game to make the changes. Go back and look at film, point things out, and make the changes in practice. That's the Chargers way. They just make changes after the fact. They wait till the season's over, and then we revamp and retool the whole entire outfit instead of making changes on the fly. So if your offensive line coach isn't helping out the situation and giving Kellen Moore, you know, a better you know, protection scheme or, you know, protection package to help the O-line, you know, pick these blitzes up better, then guess what? Maybe you should think about moving on from a guy, bringing another consultant or somebody to help out, get a fresh voice in the room. Say, hey, we got an issue here. How can we fix it? Somebody, but they refuse to do it.
Do something.
Right, but I haven't seen them make a change in season in ever. So again, I wouldn't expect them to do it here. So that's the biggest and most glaring problem with that.
Well, and I'd say, I mean, it's tough from an offensive perspective too, especially when you're missing some key players. It's tough to make such drastic adjustments at half and execute on them.
That's true.
So it's like sometimes you're hogtied a little bit to what you can do, you know, and probably a big part of that boils to Lindsley being out. I mean, I may be biased as a former center myself, but I know the drastic change of what I had to do, and just for you guys that are Captain fans, I'm pretty sure he's having a separate combo.
Yeah, I think he's on the phone.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
They saw your mouth moving, but they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm talking with my company, but I'm listening.
Okay.
Just call me a jive turkey.
You called me what?
No, he's joking. He was joking. He was
okay.
Yes,
but I'm just saying, you know, I know the drastic change of what was expected of me as a center from high school to NAIA college. I can only imagine how much more there is when you get to the NFL, you know, talking millions of dollars a year. So, I mean, like when I was in college, I had to take a test every Thursday or every Friday before our game of like, what blitzes is this team going to do? Like, it's 3rd and 10. We're on the 50. What do you expect to see from them? I had to watch like over 80 hours of film a week. And that was at that level. So
right.
Like, imagine at
FBS or pro level. Imagine how much that is.
And even like our quarterback was, he didn't know as much stuff as a quarterback should. So I'd have to even call the damn coverages and stuff for him and change protections and all this stuff. And it's just, I mean, so it's hard to have someone who can do that for you at a very efficient and elite level, and then gets hurt, and then their substitute bring that same stuff to the table. Just hard to replicate that. I mean, because if they could, they would be starting for someone else.
For sure.
Are you? So it's just, you know, it's an injury thing again, but that's always kind of been the Chargers' problems, you know, in at least recent years, I feel like. You know, like last year was wide receivers, but even this year, like Mike Williams was out. Then he had to rush Quentin Johnson in there, who probably needed a year of just catching balls in practice and watching from the sideline. It just so, that's it's kind of the same thing. And then I don't think it matters. It's just It's just a string of unluck, like just not being lucky with health, really.
Yeah, and that's been the same song and dance we've gone through the last. I would say in the Tom Telesco era, if you want to put it plain. In the Tom Telesco era, that's been the MO. Like, it's been very snake bitten and unlucky when it comes down to what we've had to deal with in certain stretches. We just can't seem to never put it together. Like, we have a good team and then everybody gets hurt, or we don't have. Yeah, or we have a team that doesn't look that great on paper, but they go to the playoffs and beat the Ravens. I mean, it's just
and no one gets hurt.
Right, nobody gets hurt. Yeah, so it's just a weird dynamic. Until we get that figured out in some way, in some fashion, we're going to be talking the same things over and over again. That's what it really will boil down to.
That's it.
Yeah. So I mean, the one thing I will say about that game overall is we tested a divisional rival, and it was a higher scoring game than divisional rivalry games normally are. Like, in terms of, there was a certain theme to the game where it didn't have the same feeling of a divisional rival game as it normally would.
Oh yeah, once Herbert got hurt, all bets were off and never got.
Yeah,
it was done. Like, no.
Pack it up, let's go home.
Now, I will say this though, I actually believe that Easton Stick, your backup, will actually surprise many, because you saw a few plays that he was able to put together when he was like thrown into the fire, having probably not gotten any reps at all during the week, and he actually looked okay in a few drives when doing a few things. And so I am genuinely curious to see, now that he's got a game under his belt, he's kind of got that experience, he's gone against a divisional rival. I do wonder if he's going to start surprising a few people, and you might not like it, Coach, because if he's able to actually do some things, then that could be a problem.
Well, you got to realize that the Easton Stick is a backup for a reason, just like we just alluded to earlier. He's
been there for a while too.
He's been there for a while too, and the problems that we have are still the problems that we have. They didn't change because Justin Herbert is hurt now. Like, you don't offense doesn't drastically get better because Easton Stick is in the game. I'm sorry, it's going to get worse. And Keenan Allen's not going to play this week, so you're missing your number one receiver. The O-line's a mess. You can't run the ball. It's not going to be good for Easton Stick. Let's just put it plain. It's just not. Max Crosby and company are going to have a field day. And if the Raiders are smart, just like pretty much every team in the league is, you get paid millions of dollars to do this. So I would like to believe that you're going to pick up with the same tendencies and do the same things the Broncos did and blitz the hell out of the quarterback and get to him as early and often as possible and wreak havoc. So that me thinking Easton Stick is going to change the world, I will not buy that stock at all when I do it. So. I expect it to be an ugly game for the Chargers, to be in all honesty. And again, I'm on my TT bandwagon right now. Thankfully taken. I don't even care.
That was what tactical. What is that again? Tactical sucking.
Tactfully tanking. Tactfully tanking.
There you go. Whatever. Yeah, same stuff. Yeah. Well, okay, Coach, I got you there, and I'm going to jump in here. Well, because you thinking I'm not listening. I kind of wasn't, because it's like, la. But anyway, I agree with Richie on one thing, because this is going to be a backup of quarterbacks that have not played for a while, because all indications are that Jimmy Garbaciopolo is going to be the quarterback for the Raiders tomorrow night. Okay. Ooh, and so he's going to be in there. And this is because I'm in the Hollywood car. I'm going to give one of the best points that made. I said, I don't know if you can see him or not. I don't know if there he is. There he is. That's it. He wasn't flipping anybody. He just said, hey. Yeah, whatever. But he said, and this is true, is that Garoppolo is going to have to go out there and do some impressive stuff just so people will actually look at his ass as a possible viability, or not a viability, not a liability for when the Raiders cut his ass loose at the end of the year. So he's got to do something. So that's one thing.
How much is he on the hook for?
Well, if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But and it's surprising because, again, once Aiden O'Connell had got the feel for the game down in L.A., he actually played pretty well, minus having 50 Who, and I know I hated saying his name, but 50 Who on his ass, and then you have somebody like McDaniel saying, yeah, we compensated for that. Bull effing crap, okay? You did not double Khalil Mack last game, which is why he was blowing up everybody, you lying sack of crap on the podium, and that is why you are fired, McFired, lying sack of crap, okay? So that may or may not have been taken care of this year by then, because we still have the same crap offense, because it's still McDaniels' playbook, and that's not going to change until the offseason, okay? We did not score a friggin' point last week. That was like going to the dentist and having all your teeth taken out manually, okay? Watching that game from my seat was painful. And by the way, these are all my teeth. I don't have dentures yet, okay? Point being that okay, it's going to be a hard game. So if Easton Stick gets a touchdown, that's probably more than what we've seen from our offense. Literally, it is more than we've seen from our offense in weeks. Okay.
You also have to realize that the Chargers defense isn't great either.
Well, but you're also talking about Crosby. Crosby's hurt, my friend. Crosby's hurt. He's on a short week. And this is another thing that I've said. We all know what the capabilities are. I'm coming up on Allegiant right now. I'm waving at my stadium as we go by. We know what we got with Crosby. Sit down. We need you for next year and the year after and the year after, okay? Sit down, Max. I love you, brother. And his parents are wonderful, okay? Sit down. Take a rest, okay? We know what you can do, but you're only going to keep debilitating your knee. So we got Easton Stick that's going to be playing quite well. I agree with that on that. It's going to be another hard game to watch, and the only thing that it helps is whose draft position, who's going to leapfrog who in the tactical tanking. Okay.
Hopefully we leapfrog y'all. Y'all can have this game.
and coach, love you, but F you. At this point, I want to see a good game, but I want to see a big fat L. And then really for the rest of the year, I want to see the same thing. I want to see a good game, but a big fat L, because I want to make sure that the Raiders are within the top 6 or 7, and they can tactically improve by jumping up to maybe Chicago's pick at 4, because they got 1 and 4, I believe. I might be wrong.
That's correct.
I think so.
Oh, thank you, sir. See, that's why I have you on the show, Coach. You got your shit together, okay? Thing is, leaping up to get whichever quarterback drops, because, again, Chicago is saying that they're going to go after Jane Daniels now. He's the smell of the week, right? Until the combine comes out, and then maybe May is the smell of the week, or maybe Bo Nix is the smell of the week. I want one of those guys anyway, but I want the Raiders to get a quarterback, and then for basically every other pick that's on the board, I want offensive line, defensive tackle, offensive line. You get what I'm saying here, and then acquire extra picks, because that's what we need to do. We need to build the friggin' interior for whoever comes in. And, Coach, I might have said this. I'm not sure if I said it or not. What the Garglers do, there's your drop, Coach. I said it for you right there. You're right there. What the Garglers do in the offseason, once they get rid of Staley, if the Chargers get a name coach, big name, like Bill Belichick, okay, I'm just saying, wait a second. If they get a big name coach, that is going to draw Mark Davis into saying, well, we got big name coach in LA. We got a guy in Kansas City that has won several Super Bowls that's going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, the
walrus looking guy, right? You got Peyton in Denver. Who are we going to get? We're going to need a big name coach. No, that's Harbaugh. Harbaugh's going to Chicago, and he's bringing Ron Rivera with him. Okay, I'm down on that. Do the timestamp on this. 1746 on whatever friggin' day in December it is. Okay, Harbaugh is going to Chicago, and he's bringing Rivera with him. Okay, trying to do a Chicago accent. It wasn't really good, but the point is, if you're going to get a big name coach, Mark Davis, get a guy by the name of Dan friggin' Quinn. Get a real offensive coordinator. Keep Antonio Pierce on staff because they played for him anyway, and upgrade everything else.
What if the Raiders got Bill Belichick instead of us? I'd laugh my ass off.
I tell you, partner, and I said, oh, by the way, this is the other laugh of the day, because was it Hollywood or Mrs. Hollywood saying? I think it was Hollywood saying, well, what happens when we bring Carr back? I'm saying, listen, it was Hollywood. He's laughing. I say, I will sell all of my tickets next year. I will still be a Raiders fan, but I will not go see that trash. And I'll save a bunch of money, and I'll go to the bar and don't have to get Sunday ticket. I'll find the bar that has the game. Derek Carr to come back. Hell to the F to the no. If Kelly remains the GM, Justin Fields, and I have no problem with that. But as far as this game, it's going to be ugly, Coach. Hey, Coach, get on a flight. I don't have a +1 right now. Okay, get on a flight. Hit me out here. And this is for real. You get on a flight tonight, brother, and you and I will go to the game tomorrow.
Listen, I would not waste my money on that. Sorry, sir. It's Christmas time. I'd much rather spend that money on my daughter than watch that trash. Sorry.
Hey, you're on your own, buddy. Hollywood says that you're smart, so I'm good. Yeah. But I'm already here, so I'm going. Okay,
yeah, have a blast.
So
so Captain, I have an interesting comment to what you just said there.
Yes, sir.
You know who actually would be pretty darn good to turn and continue your defensive turnaround around, though? It actually would be Belichick, because he's never really
somebody shoot him.
Well, I'm sorry, but name the guy that he's had similar to Max Crosby at anywhere near that caliber, except for when he was, way back with the Giants and whatnot. But name another guy that he's had that has been that caliber. He would.
Richie, you're drinking too much Canadian syrup or whiskey. I'm not sure what the hell you're talking about. Because here's the thing: Bill Belichick is going to go to a place where he already has an established quarterback, and use that. The Raiders don't have an established quarterback. That's why he's going to go and be coach's best friend for all these years coming up. Okay. Bill Belichick is not coming to the Raiders. And if he does come to the Raiders, I know that that's going to be a drop in a meme that's going to be used forever. Okay? Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah.
They say the person you hate the most ends up in your family, right? So be careful.
Oh, my God. Hey, if Belichick comes here, he bet.
Oh, frozen.
I dropped because some stupid a-hole gave me a phone call. Apologies. On the phone. If Belichick comes here, he better bring a real offensive coordinator with him. And I'm talking somebody that he hasn't already abused.
Like McDaniels?
And it better not be Josh. It better not be Josh friggin' McDaniel.
Gentlemen, we're bringing Josh back.
Oh my God! If you think I'm not going to watch that trash with Carr as our quarterback here, I will be selling every ticket I got. I'm gonna save so much money next year. It's going to be ridiculous.
Nobody will watch it because they'll burn down the stadium.
Oh, yeah. Hollywood says they're going to burn down the brand new stadium if that happens.
Imagine the trifecta: Bill Belichick is the head coach and GM, Josh McDaniels is the OC, and Derek Carr is the quarterback next year. Oh, that's the trifecta. That is the trifecta.
Coach, no.
Put it in the atmosphere. Sprinkle it out.
No. Please, coach. May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits and your crotch.
Damn.
There you go. You say crap like that, I'm going to do the old Middle Eastern voodoo juju. May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits and your crotch, putting out crap like that.
He's gonna make a little coach doll. There's a style in that. He's gonna be stabbing it with pins.
Oh,
it's gonna be like that. You're gonna be like Ray Finkel's room. He's gonna have you everywhere.
Laces out. What a sports nut, huh?
Yeah. Cozy if you're Hannibal Lecter.
That's funny.
Oh man.
So aside from I'm getting the impression you guys both think that this is going to be a lower scoring game.
Painful. Painful.
Difficult to watch.
This might go down as one of the most painful Thursday night football games we've seen all year.
Yeah.
It just might be.
Interesting.
I don't know.
But,
I can't even find a +1.
That's how bad it is. Nobody wants them. You can't sell those tickets. You can't give them away. You can't give those tickets away. Yeah. It's rough. It's gonna be rough. Listen, I'm watching out of pure punishment, pure masochistic tendencies that I'm going to watch this game.
That's it. We're both masochistic. The only difference is that you're in the comfort of your own home, and I'm going to be at Allegiant Stadium.
He traveled to get there.
Yeah, he did. He paid for the punishment. Like that's a new level. You paying for the punishment.
Yeah.
You ever see that meme when a guy's getting kicked in the nads repeatedly? That's Cap right now.
Right.
This is what it's like to be a Raiders fan.
Right. So, I think that kind of covers our divisional rivalry game for next week. In a neat and tidy bow. Alex, I'll throw over to you, and then I will we'll finish off with what I actually do think is going to be a rather good game, and that's going to be Detroit-Denver. So I'll throw over to you.
Vinny, do you throw to me after the Belichick talk since Chiefs are playing the Patriots? Like I kind of prefaced when talking about the Bills game, this next stretch are much more favorable matchups, and I think this is probably the most favorable one. Ironically enough, it was flexed from Monday night for how I guess bad the Patriots have been, and maybe the Chiefs too. But this was originally supposed to be a Monday night game, kicked all the way back to noon on Sunday. I saw someone call it the matchup of the two teams with the worst wide receivers. So, and I don't think that's too far off. And I guess there's a little bit of a potential juju narrative game, revenge game at play here as well. But I mean, fact remains, Patriots offense outside of last Thursday has not been very good. Been dead last in the league in almost everything. I think last week was the first time they scored over 21 points for the first time in a while. So I feel good with how the defense matches up against their offense, especially with kind of the revolving door that's been going on at QB there, as well as Belichick's propensity to just yank guys in and out if they're doing bad. So, which I think always kind of kills the game, for that team. So, I mean, we'll see if something like that happens. But, like I said, with the Bills game, the Chiefs defense was there's nothing to blame them about on that loss. They held Josh Allen very respectable number. I think some of his lower numbers of the year, got turnovers. The one thing that they were bad about was defending James Cook, which I would say is probably the only component of the Patriots offense. At least looking at it from recency with last week, it's probably the one part where they did have success, and that's with Zeke kind of having a vintage Zeke game for some reason. But I mean, he had 7 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown, had another 68 rushing. I mean, we'll see if that's a sustainable thing, since he's kind of been in and out of their lineups and everything. But just looking at how the Chiefs played the Bills, that was, the one weak link was defending James Cook. So just looking at where the Patriots got success last week, that would be the thing I think they need to focus on. But end of the day, Chiefs defense is still very much an elite unit. Snead has shown the ability to just shut down whatever team's number one option is out there, whether that's Stephon Diggs or whoever ends up playing for the Patriots, because they've got a few guys questionable right now. But then, I mean, the bigger concern here is just obviously the Patriots defense matching up with the Chiefs offense and where things have been. I'm going to sound like a broken record because I feel like I've said this the last 3 weeks, but I think at least with how the offense is on the other side of the ball here for New England, I think this could be the game where they hopefully let off all their frustration and we do see a little more offensive firepower. But again, I've said that before and it hasn't happened. But the key stats of the Patriots defense, 5 straight games they have not given up over 21 points. No QB has thrown for 215 yards against them in the last 4 games. And their secondary is holding quarterbacks to sub 80 passer rating. So, those aren't the best of stats to see that a defense is putting up, when you have your team in a little bit of some offensive woes, so to speak. So, we'll see if they can find ways to counteract that and move the ball. But yeah, I mean, they played really well against Justin Herbert 2 weeks ago. So they've shown the ability to shut down an elite QB. So, that's definitely the bigger area of concern. But, glass half full, Chiefs, all their losses have been to over 500 teams. Patriots are obviously in the cellar of rankings right now and in the hunt for, Caleb Williams or top 3 pick or whatever. So, hope it's a bounce back game. Hope to see a little bit more of offensive production. But I think ultimately, if the Chiefs just play smart enough to not have turnovers, I don't see how they lose the game. Just with how their defense plays, I don't see the Patriots putting up the same numbers they put up against Pittsburgh, against KC's defense. So I predicted a score of like 24-10. But that's, I think, a very optimistic 24 because Chiefs have not been able to get to that kind of threshold a lot lately. So we'll see. And yeah, Jack, I agree with you. I believe I said that last week, that if they didn't beat the Bills, they were definitely heading towards I think they'd make the playoffs. Outside of some crazy unforeseen thing, I don't see them losing any of their next 4 games. But I do think that Bills loss was more of a nail in the coffin that they're going to have a first round exit than not. So, that being said, the other teams at the top of the AFC have way worse schedules than the Chiefs have. So, I mean, there is a chance that they could, kind of just show up and stick to their business and the Ravens or Dolphins or one of these other teams drops off and they end up, right where they want to be. But I think it's going to be certainly an uphill climb to, have the consistency that they've had in the last few playoff runs of, number one seed, playoffs go through Arrowhead, and having these home games. So, they've certainly, I think, closed the book in that regard, but they still have time to make things right and ultimately get to where they want to go. I mean, the Buccaneers, when they won the Super Bowl, I think lost 5 straight games, and everyone thought they were trash and totally washed, and Brady, made a mistake to continue playing, and they got it right at the right time. And there's always, I feel like, those years where teams play really bad for a stretch and then, figure it out when things are right. I mean, look at the 49ers. I think, what was that, 4 or 5 weeks ago, they lost 3 straight and everyone thought the sky was falling, and now they're I would be willing to bet the probable favorite to win the Super Bowl. So anything can change in short span of time in the NFL. So there is still time to get things right in KC, and I think the schedule is at least lining up for that opportunity to be there.
Yeah, fair enough. I still do wonder if the Chiefs need to get that first round bounce from the playoffs to.
I wouldn't be upset about it. I mean, I would, but
but you know what I'm saying with this, right?
Like, tells you got to spend money.
Like you need to kind of get the kick in the rear to say, look, like your quarterback and Kelsey can only do so much for you. Start doing something, right? Like I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, no, and I would obviously be upset, but I do think that is something. If it's not already prevalent at this stage, they obviously need to invest in wide receiver in the off season. And I find it interesting too. I'm trying not to get too off track, but Veach with the whole Chris Jones thing at the start of the year. I read a whole thing that, that's why they couldn't pursue Hopkins or some of those other bigger name guys, because they weren't sure what was going to happen with Chris Jones. And so it's like, situations like that too, you can't not you can't be, as a GM, let things like that, dictate how this plays out. Cause then, I mean, there's a snowball effect up to this point. And everything that Veach has tried to do in terms of recouping or rebuilding wide receivers is not panned out, maybe outside of Rice. So yeah, I mean, I think that something is going to be needed so that they can like the Tampa Bay Super Bowl loss very clearly left that game like, ooh, I got to rebuild the offensive line. So went and gave Joe Tooney, $60 million, traded for Orlando Brown, drafted Creed Humphrey. Trey Smith, I obviously fell into their lap a little bit with a heart issue, but still took the chance to draft him. And we saw the change of success. So I do think that that's going to be the approach this offseason, whether that is trading up to draft someone or a little bit of both. But I do expect to see a complete overhaul in terms of wide receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if outside of Rice, no one else is back. In terms of moving around, but it definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Is there anything else that you think might be a key to, or something maybe to avoid, like a trap? I mean, we this is the kicker, right? With Bill, is that he's so good at completely eliminating that top threat that you have on your team, whether you like it or not. I mean, look, the panel here can all say, no, we don't want him here as our coach. But I mean, the guy has shown for decades at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's probably the greatest defensive mind in the NFL.
I don't doubt
I think
that
the
at all.
hesitations with him as a coach is he's so established and is so used to my way or the highway for what 20 plus years in New England that he's not going to go anywhere and accept less. He's not going to go anywhere and just be Bill Belichick, the coach. He's going to want to literally bring everything that, the Patriot way and do it again with some other owner that's going to fall for that and pay him money. I hope it's the Panthers, just because that would just really put a nice feather in the cap for Tepper over there. But
yeah, let Tepper have him. Let Tepper have him. He's too overbearing. Like
exactly.
Again, if he was just gonna be a defensive coordinator or the head coach in the DC, I would be like, okay, fine. I still don't want him in LA, but I can get that. But if you want to try to control personnel, be very aloof.
When you're terrible at it, like literally.
Right. You're aloof and you're behind the curve when it comes to offense and understanding the changes and the nuances of what offensive football looks like in 2023. Again, that's not going to bode well holistically for organization. If you were just going to sit in your lane and be a defensive coordinator or / head coach and just, not try to, basically run everything, then that might be a different story. But what comes with Bill Belichick comes with too much, and you see how that's worked out since Tom Brady's been gone. I don't want to sign up for that personally.
But to what you were getting at, Richie, yeah, I mean, obviously, great defensive mind. I read the stats that their stat line of what they've been giving up as a unit. I wouldn't say anyone that overly blows you away in terms of the defense, but collectively they get after it. I mean, they're not crazy in bringing pressure. Like, they play you pretty straight up and just wait for you to make a mistake. So, I would expect that Mahomes at least would be more experienced enough to read that, and hopefully they have a better game plan in terms of running the ball. Yeah, whatever, dude. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really any traps or anything. It's just like I said, boils down to which offensive unit's going to show up. At what time are they going to, is it going to be a second half offense that shows up? I'd like to see him do it for the whole effing game and not go down 14 points in 2 minutes. But yeah, if they can just, that and not turn the ball over, I find it really hard for them to lose this game.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. But, again, it's the one thing where if you have a bunch of receivers who can't catch the ball and Andy Reid doesn't start leaning in on the run game and Belichick does what he does and literally takes Kelsey out of the game, then it sounds crazy, right? Like, it sounds
that's been the issue is, because Kelsey has been getting double, triples covered all year. And still is on pace for the same level of stats that he normally puts up. But the issue is when you get into the moments where you have to have something, you need the completion to get something done. They have no option because there's no one else to make the defense has to respect or honor. So, that's why I keep hoping that for the game where they just get a defense that's a little worse at defending the pass, and maybe someone can gain some confidence and step up. But it just seems more and more likely that's not going to happen. Because recency here, like, we've looked at 2 games where they've needed a completion to keep the game going, to either get the lead or keep it to where it's a game. And both times have had to go to Valdez-Scantling. Why? Yep. Because Kelsey's either double covered or triple covered. So, regardless, unless Mahomes runs around for 10 seconds, likely not going to get the ball to him. And Rice is probably getting, some sort of bracket or something. And then says, okay, like, one of you other trash ass dudes beat us. And it hasn't happened. So
I know the feeling. Trust me, I know the feeling.
So we'll finish off with my Denver Broncos and our game, which is certainly, I think, poised to be at least one of the better matchups of this week. Overall,
Saturday, baby.
Yeah,
we're getting into December Saturday football.
Yeah. So I really do think it's going to be a rather interesting game if we're going to be honest. Ultimately, the question, and this is really the question of the day, is which version of the Lions are going to show up?
That's a good one.
Right? Now, if we're going to follow this through, as we've seen traditionally from this year of the Detroit Lions, they typically don't string together.
Detroit, Lion. Oh, that's my other show. Okay, sorry.
Last I checked, Detroit isn't particularly French. However, I am Canadian and it is very French
enough.
here.
Detroit, Lyon. And guys, I'm sorry, I gotta pop out now because we are at our location. But great being out and hanging with you.
See, Cap.
But so it's a real interesting piece here in terms of what version of the Lions you're going to get. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And they've typically not strung together two stinkers. Generally speaking, they've kind of done one really bad looking game and then they typically bounce back. So the question is, can they bounce back enough to overcome what is turned out to be a very, very good Denver defense?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, if you'd asked me that 5 weeks into the season, I would tell you you're nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy that it's the same team that gave up 70 points to the Dolphins, who just lost to the Titans.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call.
Yeah. No, it's great too. I feel like we always see this kind of the season play out this way, at least for Dan Campbell's led Lions, where they have some stretch where they get really hot and everyone's like, "Oh, are the Lions up and coming?" And then it fizzles out at the end. So, you know, you do have home golf to worry about.
Yeah, a little
it's
bit.
notoriously better in the dome. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a good matchup. It's, I think, similar to the Chiefs. I mean, as long as Russell can protect the football, it's going to come down to last possession.
But the Lions defense is hurting in the run game because they lost to Lee McNeil a couple of weeks ago, so their big run stopper is gone. So if I'm Sean Payton, I'm running the ball profusely on that against that front and make them stop it, and then we move on from there. But I would definitely start there and get Javonte and Jaleel McLaughlin going down here early.
Well, I guess we got Montgomery and Gibbs too to worry about.
Yeah, what I would actually like to see occur with the Broncos is what I think really ought occur here is I want to see Williams run, and then I want P. Ryan to be brought in. and I want him. No, but I want him to come in and start alternating more with Williams. He is Samaje has quietly been a really, really talented running back for our team and stepped in at the right moments with the right plays and done some great stuff. I'd like to see him come in more into the game, and the reason why is you want to wear down the other team quickly, and then that's where you start mixing in McLaughlin more, because McLaughlin is faster, can break through the holes more. But the problem is when the guys are fresher, they're more likely to be able to just be there to block and kind of maintain that run lane discipline. Whereas when they're tired and slower and worn down, you're more likely to be able to move them further off their spots and kind of open different lanes. And that, I think, is where you can get Jaleel McLaughlin going. But you need the bruisers to really start wearing down the defensive linemen on the other side. And to your point, Coach, they have struggled against the run. And there is nothing more demoralizing for an opposing team to literally say, we know they're going to run the ball 9 times out of 10 and still not be able to stop them.
Yeah, Chargers. Oh, I'm sorry.
That wasn't foreshadowing at all, Coach. That was
my bad. I flashback trauma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but that's exactly.
I got out of the cage, man.
And I think that's the Broncos' key to success is running the ball. And I also think that one of the things that's going to be a key here is going to be the short pass game.
Yeah.
Because that's an extension of the run, but you can start getting guys with more speed in motion to kind of complete routes and get some extra yards. So, you know, a hard-fought 4-down run.
Dude, get that off, Jack. Kidding.
Well,
how dare you?
Well, Jack, I would agree with you if my team did not have Jerry Jeudy on its roster.
Yeah.
Jerry Jag.
Him and MVS have the same affliction.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So My comment to Judy would be one more drop and you're being dropped.
Mm.
Yeah. Gary Jagg's his name now.
Yeah, it really is just another guy.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because a guy like him is not used to being treated like that, right? And he's used to always being the best guy on the team and the best guy here and the best guy there. But
it's in college, buddy.
Welcome to the NFL, my man. You got to catch the ball and you got to be the best, and he is nowhere close.
Yeah. Not wrong.
I mean, he's being beat out by undrafted free agent rookies.
Oh, yeah.
This is where you miss Tim Patrick.
Oh man, that is my guy right there. Let me tell you, that guy is
one
solid.
person I wish they would get more involved is Mims, but that's because I got him in fantasy. Well, dynasties.
Yeah. Mims has been okay. The quiet part that most Broncos fans aren't admitting to is that Russell Wilson is still having problems. He's
turning the ball up. I mean, that Texans game, that was on him.
Yeah, it was. But it's actually worse than that. He is still not fully seeing the routes in front of him on the field and throwing anticipatory throws. And where I'm going with that is, his problem with Hackett's offense was that there was 3 crossers and Russ couldn't pick which one he was going to try to aim for, and he missed them all. And what he's doing here is Peyton has given him 2 or 3 short passes or mid passes that Russ is being told, focus on those. And he's hitting most of them most of the time. That's why his stats are looking good. But where he is clearly falling flat is when that third route actually develops, he completely misses it most of the time. You can see other games, for example, Alex versus Kansas City. Sutton on the left-hand side of one of the plays on the left-hand side of the field was wide open. And I mean, like, nobody near him. In the game versus the Chargers, coach Jerry Jeudy was wide open downfield that should have been a toss-in touchdown. Missed that throw. It wasn't done right. And there's been a few others where he's had some wide receivers. Marvin Mims, for example, in some of the other games, wide open throws not thrown to him properly either. It's those types of things when they're stacked one on top of the other that really present an issue for the argument that a lot of Broncos fans are trying to make, which is that, Russell Wilson is having a career year, but certainly, top 5, he's doing so well, blah, 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 blah. My comment back is, great. Is that actually Wilson, or is that Wilson just being very receptive to very good coaching? And I do believe that it may well be, receptive to very good coaching. You won't really know that until you see another quarterback step in, perhaps for Sean Payton, and having similar success. So that's kind of where my general take is on kind of Wilson and the Broncos. Do I think he's doing well? Yes. Do I think he's made some progress forward? Yes. Do I think last year with Hackett was his probably worst career year he's going to have? Probably.
Oh yeah. I think the proof's there on last year that was Hackett. Because I mean, look at New York Jets' offense. I get they lost Rodgers, but outside of last week, they hadn't scored 14 offensive points since like week 4.
Right.
So I think it's pretty obvious that Hackett was the problem and probably ruined Russ's confidence. But,
This is also true. I 100% agree. 2 or 3 plays in the Chargers game and in the Texans game, actually, if you're going to be honest, some of those poor throws and poor plays were Russ throwing wide to the outside when it should have been inside, or Russ throwing too high or short on deep passes where the wide receiver is trying to come back for the ball when he should be thrown as he's running either in stride or at least into his hands. And these are all things that, I notice. And if you kind of go back and truly watch with a little bit more of an analytical eye, I agree. You're not going to get any arguments from me. And I think that's why some of these games were stalling. Like the middle parts of the games, the Broncos offense is just absolutely stalling. And I think that it's simply because there hasn't been plays that have been either drawn up or there hasn't been looks that have been analyzed and then implemented or installed where the right things can simply be pointed out and say, now go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyways, that's kind of where I think we're going to be at. And Coach, I do agree with your assessment. I think the Broncos' number one key offensively, at least, which is obviously the goal of any game in football, is score more than the other guy,
Right.
is going to be, simply put, run the ball. And I really, really hope that I don't see what I saw against the Texans, which is the Broncos trying to turn into a passing team when we are a running team. Coach, to your point, your offensive line is built for pass pro. The Broncos' offensive line is built to throw people off the ball and run the ball. Stop trying to pretend to be something you're not.
That's
Thanks.
it.
That's my advice.
Good one. It's a good one.
Thanks. Just own it.
Solid advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just own it. Own exactly who you are, and you have a better chance at winning. So, anyways, guys, that's kind of where I think where the Broncos are going to land today, this weekend. I do think that we have a legitimate chance at coming out on top against the Lions. I really do. But I think that a lot of things are going to have to go right. And this is, again, just like the Chargers game and just like the Texans game, this is going to be yet another coin flip style game for my Denver Broncos. And it's going to be, can the Denver defense continue to force a couple turnovers? And can the Denver offense actually run the ball? So with that in mind, guys, until next Wednesday with the Wild Wild West, please stay tuned and migrate your way over to the Lockdown Defense Podcast channel there on YouTube. Catch Alex and Coach directly after the Wild Wild West here for everything you need to know about fantasy football. They will help you out, get you some picks, tell you why you were wrong and they were right last week in terms of what they did, and go from there. And ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side's the best side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame mouth.